Hello, and I wanted to start this talk with a thank you from the Viva Connection product makers. The team here is thrilled with the reception that Connections has received since its announcement in February and overwhelmed by the great stories you've told us about. Stories like the need to create a home for your employee experiences, invest in the culture of your organization, turbocharge your communications, and modernize your employees' access to apps. And if you found this talk and are brand new to Viva Connections, welcome. I'll get you up to speed today. My name is Adam Harmetz, and I've been working in this area at Microsoft for over 15 years, mostly on SharePoint. But in today's world, the distinction between all these various products means less and less, because of investments like Connections that focus on taking the best from across M365 and putting it together to solve your most urgent business needs. The talk today is going to cover a bunch of things related to Viva Connections. We're going to tell you what it is, why we created it, and how you can get started and up to speed. All right. Let's start the talk by discussing the why. I'll tell you the origin story of Microsoft Viva in general and Connections specifically. It all started in 2020. In fact, Viva Connections is one of the first enterprise products to be conceived, designed, and engineered in a work-from-home world. We felt firsthand what it means to deliver results in a rapidly changing world. So much has changed in the past year. Even as people start going back to work, how we work will be permanently transformed by the pandemic. Many organizations have adapted to remote and hybrid work, but all of this and other changes around us has demanded unprecedented resilience. A personal story. I remember after we decided to invest in Connections and needing to do a design sprint to flesh out the ideas, we were unsure of exactly what paradigms on mobile were going to work best. We'd never done a remote design sprint before. The team needed to learn new ways of working, stretch new muscles, and not burn out. We were building a new culture and a new product at the same time. Just about every customer and leader I speak with is grappling with how to make this new world of work more sustainable for their people, more sustainable for their organizations, and for themselves. Many of us are realizing what is needed to survive and thrive in a new world is this culture of resilience that enables people and organizations to continuously adapt to what's next. As a product designer, we at Microsoft have focused on being students of this change, listening to our customers, commissioning research, analyzing data, trying to experience it ourselves, following the science. We certainly don't have all the answers, but we've gained valuable insights in order to help guide our approach and the way we make products. In fact, here's some of the data that we've collected. And one of the key insights from research in this area is that more than ever, people are the key to business success. These stats and countless other research show that when we invest in people, we focus on improving the employee experience, we can directly impact employee engagement, retention, customer satisfaction, and a company's financial success. And I think about this a lot as a product designer. It's a really meaningful shift in our thinking from being content or app-centric to people and workflow-centric. This is why Connections isn't just a new destination. It's a new way of thinking about the problem and a new relationship you'll have with Microsoft as you focus more on your culture and employees' experiences and how Microsoft can help with that. So at the end of the day, there has never been a bigger need for technology, data, and insights that are designed to enable a great employee experience, regardless of your location. Employees want to feel more connected, more aligned to the company's purpose and mission. Leaders need a modern way to engage and develop their employees and communicate broadly. And of course, IT needs to be able to quickly enable this modern experience without having to rip and replace all their existing systems. Bringing IT and customers and technology along is so core to what Microsoft Viva is about. What is needed is a new approach and a new category technology, and we call this the Employee Experience Platform, or EXP. And you can see the core principles, the core investment areas that Employee Experience Platform needs to have on the slide in front of you. Everything from communications to broadcasting resources to delivering insights to capturing knowledge. And so this is why we built Microsoft Viva. Viva is an employee experience platform that enables people and teams to be their best from anywhere. Viva brings together communications, insights, knowledge, and learning within the flow of everyday work in Microsoft Teams. Because of course, Microsoft Teams is where most remote and hybrid work happens these days. And Teams has become a hub where we can bring all these resources together in an integrated system of engagement. And importantly, of course, Microsoft 365 already has the foundational capabilities for all of these things in technologies and products like Yammer, SharePoint, Stream, Workplace Analytics, Microsoft Search, LinkedIn, Glint, and more. Microsoft Viva builds on that foundation by adding innovative new services and insights focused on people development and success. So if that's the why and the overall framing for Microsoft Viva and some of the core principles of moving to a very people-centric, workflow-centric, end-to-end solution-centric product making, the rest of today's talk is going to take that wayfinding and focus in on the culture and communications pillar of Microsoft Viva, which is where Connections takes the center stage. This area is all about how you communicate and inspire your employees, how employees consume that information, how we give employees access to the right tools, how you help them create a sense of connection and community. And I know many of you are out there thinking, but wait, Adam, isn't that what SharePoint, Yammer, and Stream already does? Let me address that head on. I'm going to story arc Viva Connections and how it leverages on that multi-year momentum in those technologies. So let me go back in time and talk a little bit about the 5-year journey we've been on since the Future of SharePoint event in 2016. In May of 2016, we introduced modern SharePoint. It was the same scenarios that SharePoint has always solved, but an investment in modern technology, modern tool chains, modern extensibility, carrying customers along, bringing them into the cloud. And of course, in 2018, we added communication sites and hub sites. We added depth in the publishing scenarios of modern SharePoint. In 2019, we integrated Yammer and Stream into SharePoint. We announced SharePoint Home, which was the root portal, the head, the digital dashboard in the web for your internet and for your employees. And then in 2020, Yammer had a huge year. It was the year of Yammer, the new Yammer UX, and Stream also pivoted to storing the data in ODSP, allowing us to bring all that together. So you can see we've been building this journey, building up to what Viva Connections is, which brings the best of Yammer, the best of Stream, and the best of SharePoint together to solve these end-to-end scenarios. It really is absolutely building on this journey, and it's the next step in the evolution of modern SharePoint connected to Yammer and Stream. Let me officially introduce to you Microsoft Viva Connections, your gateway to a modern employee experience. It helps everyone stay engaged and informed by delivering a curated employee destination that can be configured for specific roles and needs. Customers can brand and customize it to be their own employee app. Let's take a closer look. All right, here I am in Viva Connections desktop inside Microsoft Teams, always one click away from the gateway to my employee experiences. You'll notice it's not actually branded Viva Connections to the end user. It's branded ReliCloud, the fictional company we're going to be using for this demo. Organizations get to choose the color scheme and look and feel, and of course, name that corresponds to the brand of their organization. It's a really important way that customers can express their brand, their feel to their employees. And of course, it's chock full of resources and news and access to apps. If you're thinking this looks a little bit like a SharePoint portal, you're right. This is taking the best of the SharePoint content management system, the SharePoint website, and putting it in Microsoft Teams. The web is the best technology for achieving this task within desktop, and you can see it embedded right here in Microsoft Teams. But of course, the mobile experience is an incredibly important part of Viva Connections. So you can see it right here. Really, there's 3 different pivots to the mobile experience, all with a corresponding desktop experience as well: feed, dashboard, and resources. And we're going to talk about each one. The feed is really where employees can stay up to speed with what's going on, with corporate communicators can get out vision and get interactions from employees about it. So you can see here as I scroll through the feed, you have social interactions. It brings together multiple different announcements from Yammer, from Teams, from SharePoint News, all together into one space. I can interact, I can leave comments, I can have reactions to all the different pieces of data. And the important technology point here to make is that if you're familiar with the feeds that appear on Office.com or the feeds that appear in Outlook Mobile, this is the exact same technology. It's just a pivot or a slice of the feed dedicated to corporate communications, dedicated to keep employees in the know from their leaders and to share knowledge, and available in a branded experience. So if that's the feed, let's look at the dashboard for a second. The dashboard is where employees get access to all the corporate apps and resources that they need. It was really designed mobile first, but of course it can be embedded, as you can see here, into the desktop experience as well. It's a set of cards, so things like health checks, things like accessing your rewards and payroll and pay stub, tasks that might be due. Even other connections to other Viva modules like Insights and Learning are embedded right into the dashboard. And it becomes a one-stop shop for completing tasks, getting access to information. And of course, this dashboard can be targeted and tailored. So it's a personalized dashboard that varies based upon your role and what information and cards needs to be targeted to you. And finally, there's the Resources tab. The desktop experience for this is the SharePoint app bar or the navigation elements within Microsoft Teams that allow you to have global navigation. It allows you to access your frequent or important SharePoint sites, Yammer communities, stream channels. It's basically just a list of links that allow you to quickly get back to the most important resources within the organization, both editorially curated from the organization, as well as using the Microsoft Graph to dynamically show the end user the most popular sites and communities that they interact with most often. Let's summarize what we just saw on the key screens here. We just saw a demo of the long-term vision for Viva Connections. On desktop, it was connected to Microsoft Teams, always one click away, and it was a composite experience pulling in a bunch of information using, of course, SharePoint website as the best way of having composite experiences. On mobile, we saw three key screens: feed, dashboard, and resources. The feed allows quick access to corporate communications and the ability for end users to interact with it. Dashboard was a way of completing corporate tasks, getting access to corporate actions and curated tools. And then resources. That's where the internet, the list of communities, the list of places you can go is organized in a way where people can quickly find what they're looking for. Now, the other incredibly important point that I've made a couple times here is that Viva Connections leverages existing infrastructure and security investments of Microsoft 365. So ideas like you can target any audience or group using Azure Active Directory. You can customize or extend dashboard using familiar paradigms like Power Apps, SharePoint Framework, adaptive cards. You can deploy targeted navigation to company sites, communities, and resources by leveraging current information architecture. And I just want to hit the nail on the head because we've gotten a lot of questions about Viva Connections from customers who have invested in SharePoint and Yammer and Stream over the years. And they're wondering what's new. And sometimes when we talk about Viva Connections, we blend together features people could have been using for a while from new things we've announced in the last month or so. So in terms of what's new in the last month, if you've been investing in SharePoint with Viva Connections, first, it's a co-branded destination in Teams Desktop and Teams Mobile. You get to choose the brand, the icon, and the name. Two, it really is announcing a greater depth of line of business integrations, including bringing in adaptive cards and more out-of-the-box cards and services into the experience. Of course, this was designed for mobile, but applies equally well to the desktop experience too. And third, it really is announcing a new strategy for employee experiences on mobile, where so far we've had a SharePoint mobile app, but most of our work has been in responsive web, scaling the web product to any sort of form factor. And while that still has a role to play, you'll click on resources and load your HR portal. Really, more and more of the quick actions, the quick experiences are really designed to be mobile first and mobile native. And that's really important if you're especially in this post-pandemic or this pandemic and post-pandemic world where you're really investing in employee experiences. We think that designing not only the desktop experience and not trying to have one experience across both, but rather having dedicated mobile and dedicated desktop experiences is incredibly important, especially for that second point, a line of business integration, where quick task completion on mobile is a really important scenario you can use to re-engage your audience in an employee experience. So a couple announcements today. People have been wondering, when is Viva Connections coming? And we've said the full experience, including mobile, is shipping this summer. However, we are ready to roll out the desktop experience, taking your existing home site, SharePoint home site, and putting it in Microsoft Teams. We actually announced that at Ignite last fall, and we're ready for the general availability. Rollout starting right now will be completed by the end of this month. All right, the second announcement I wanted to talk about today is to discuss the pricing and licensing for Microsoft Viva Connections. We're ready to announce today that it'll be available at no additional charge to existing Microsoft 365 and Office 365 customers. So you can get going planning for the deployment right now. All right, we are almost done with the talk today, but I wanted to bring a little live code into the situation. I thought it could be a great way of reinforcing some of the principles I've talked about in the last few minutes. So it's early pre-production code. I just sort of took a page from our existing build, but I wanted to show it to you and demonstrate a couple key points. So let's cut over into the live demo. All right, for this demo, we're going to look at the Viva Connections dashboard editing experience. So what you see here is the editing and the sort of home for the dashboard that a manager or editor or owner of the dashboard would see. Of course, this dashboard would be embedded in Viva Connections app inside Teams. It'd be embedded in various SharePoint sites, and it's used in many different locations. But of course, you want one place to be able to come and configure and edit and work with all that. But you can see the dashboard in action nonetheless. And all of these, to get geeky for a second, are adaptive cards. So they load super quickly, they compose in other experiences incredibly well, they relay out really easily. And of course, they are easy to create because people are used to creating adaptive cards for various other situations across Microsoft 365. And if I were to click and interact one, we have an option of loading a quick look experience. This loads blazingly fast, allows me to take quick actions, and then if I need to, I can link off to a dedicated Teams application or even a dedicated other app or website where I can really interact with a line of business app. But of course, we're here to look at the editing experience. So if I go ahead and click edit, just like a SharePoint page, it throws me into this simple editing experience. Of course, it's even, and you'll recognize a lot of things about SharePoint page editing, but it's even more on Rails than that. I can move cards around super easily, say this goes before there, this one goes after there. I can look at it on different form factors. I was just looking at mobile. Here's the desktop experience, back to mobile. Obviously, WYSIWYG editing here as I directly edit the canvas. Now, if I were to add a card, SharePoint page aficionados will recognize something here. This looks like a toolbox. Just like SharePoint Framework web parts would appear when you're editing a page, new cards would appear right here. And this is a pre-production environment, so you don't see the full list of cards eventually we'll have, but we envision a rich gallery of out-of-the-box connections to various other services, Microsoft 365 properties and tasks. And of course, your enterprise dev team can create adaptive cards, SharePoint Framework solutions, Teams applications that would appear right here as well, allowing you to have the very best tailored mobile experience for interacting and centralizing your line of business applications. But one final part of this demo that I want to talk about that really drives home one of the core principles we've had from day one for Viva Connections is adding a URL card. So let me take a step back and talk about what I mean there. The principle that I want to discuss here is time to value. We know that there is a huge spectrum of line of business applications, some of which you may want to have a dedicated line of business app, enterprise dev team modernizing, and others that maybe a couple years ago you already created a mobile website for. It's not used all that frequently, but you still want it to get the sunlight, you still want it to be targeted to the right people, you still want to deliver on the promise of the Viva Connections dashboard being a central place for all important applications. Well, adding a URL card does that incredibly simply. If I have an existing line of business application that's a website that I've already modernized, it couldn't be simpler to add it right here. Let's say I already know that ReliCloud has a pay stub application. I can give that a quick title, design the card incredibly simply. I already have a thumbnail on the clipboard. So I add it right there, and you can see just like that, I've added a great looking card, and if I need to, I can target it to particular audiences. I can add two versions of this card, one seen by first-line workers, one seen by salaried pay staff, and delivering on that promise of incredibly simply capturing existing energy and momentum I've already made in line of business modernizations, but putting it right here. And of course, the Connections dashboard will not just be a URL link farm to everywhere. This is why we have adaptive cards and SharePoint Framework web parts and Teams applications for the head end of your line of business applications. But we really wanted to support the full spectrum. So fresh code, you can tell we still have some work to do to clean it up. But I wanted to do this quick demo to give you a sense of some of the core principles of time to value, of recognizing the spectrum of line of business applications, of pattern matching to existing content management system in SharePoint, like editing pages and the look and feel of things, of keeping it incredibly simple, of reusing technology like adaptive cards in the SharePoint framework so you can get started quicker and we can deliver value to you faster. And of course, perf and caching and reliability and quick access as people are expecting out of a modern mobile application. So I hope this quick demo makes some of what we talked about in the vision come alive today. You can see where we are in development and also just reinforce some of the principles that we hold really most dear for the Viva Connections app. And although the talk is about Viva Connections, this deep into the talk, I hope that you get it's not only about Viva Connections, it's also about what's coming in SharePoint, in Yammer, in Stream. This is the evolution of all those products together into one coherent end-to-end experience. And so you can see what's coming across all the culture and communications part of Microsoft 365. A couple highlights that I'll call out now. We're in the middle rolling out the SharePoint app bar and global navigation. So that's on the left-hand rail of the SharePoint web experience, quick access to resources, quick access to your frequent sites and news. In Yammer tab and Teams is an incredibly important announcement. We're also integrating SharePoint News and Yammer deeper together. And in Microsoft Stream, you might have noticed that your Teams meeting recordings are starting to show up in your OneDrive. Available soon, of course, what we talked about today, the desktop experience for Viva Connections. We're working hard to have a site templates in SharePoint. In other words, a deeper product opinion of how sites can be configured and used and getting started templates for that. And we continue every week to ship new updates to the way people create pages, including working with images, continuing to improve the authoring experience based upon feedback, and some of the system functionality like audience targeting. Q&A is a big investment for Yammer, and you'll see more coming in that area. And then later this year, of course, the mobile experience for Viva Connections. And so I'll leave the rest of the slide up here. You can see it. Like I said, we'll tweet it out so you can have a permanent reference of it. And I wanted to end the talk by just talking a little bit about how you can get ready for Viva Connections. If the business processes and the business problems that we talked about today resonate with you as something you need to do, and you're just waiting to get your hands on the bits, you can get started now. There is plenty you can do to prep and get ready to be one of the best examples of Viva Connections as it launches this year. First off, of course, move to SharePoint Online, move to Microsoft 365. Second, deploy a home site for your organization. All versions of great Viva Connections deployments will have SharePoint home sites deployed. This is the backing for the desktop experience inside Microsoft Teams, and it is a great web resource for collecting information and resources and being a gateway to the rest of your employee experiences. Of course, investing in Yammer communities. The announcements there are going to be powering the feed you saw on Viva Connections. And then lastly, because it's just starting to roll out too, you can already think about taking that home site and putting it in Microsoft Teams using the Viva Connections desktop experience. All right, if we piqued your interest here, if you're interested in learning more about Viva Connections, you can see the URL on your screen right there. That's where you can learn more. That's where you can see dedicated other demos and resources, connect with the team, share your interest in Microsoft Viva. Please give us your feedback and let us know. We can't develop Microsoft Viva Connections without your help, without co-developing with our customers, with our community, with our partners. So please reach out. You can also find us on Twitter and a bunch of other places on social media. So thank you for your time today, and good luck deploying Viva Connections.